near Highway 17, a stretch of rural North Carolina road where you can find every slice of American life.
Every few months, there's another magazine article or online article of Edenton, prettiest little town in the South.
Along it lies the town of Edenton, a coastal community along the Albemarle Sound, where day trippers peruse local boutiques and idyllic brick sidewalks. But at the end of South Broad Street is a reminder that sometimes things truly do move slower in the South.
It's been here as long as I can remember it.
A town statue separates opposing views of a chapter in American history. On one side stands Rod Phillips. On the other is Michael Dean. And in between them sits a marble statue erected, quote, "to our Confederate dead." This is the scene every Saturday, steps away from Edenton's picturesque downtown, where two groups split on a statue's message protest for hours. This started as a ritual for Andreen Heath.
One Sunday I came down here and I said, gosh, this statue is big, it's got a bench and no one's sitting around it, no one's here. And it's a throwback to the Confederacy, let me sit here. And the reactions I got were surprising.
One weekend, Rod Phillips joined.
In my opinion, it's a shout out to the lost cause. First protest, actually on Christmas Day of 2021. It's simply because we feel that strongly about it.
And then a year later, Michael Dean came along too.
They were protesting for almost a year. And several of my fellow veterans and I, we were having coffee and we were talking about this. And we decided to show that there's more than one side to a coin.
Words are rarely exchanged in this cross-street stare-down. This is their Saturday ritual for 3 years. On one side are those who want the statue removed.
This monument that we have documents the history of racism rather than the Civil War. Without these protests, the monument is going nowhere.
And others who do not.
They were still fighting for a government that institutionally wanted things to stay the way they are, which was to keep slavery, right? So from that standpoint alone, couldn't one argue that that fact alone is that the monument is based in
This memorial
level?
has nothing to do with slavery.
Dean argues it's just a veteran's statue and nothing more.
Headstone for those 47 county boys. Okay. Now, if it had something if it had an inscription on here, something about slavery or whatever, I could see where somebody would have cause to take it down. Okay. I can see that, and I would be the first to admit it. But read it. There's absolutely nothing on there. It says to our Confederate dead. Period.
In 2023, Edenton's town council voted to move the statue to a nearby park, but a judge issued a restraining order after Mike Dean and the local Sons of Confederate Veterans successfully filed an injunction, arguing it violated North Carolina state law.
That park we're talking about is right around the corner from public housing. So you got mostly minorities going down there to fish in that park. So you think they're going to be wanting to fish in a park where a Confederate memorial sits.
But then by that logic, why would they want to come downtown where that Confederate monument sits? Just by that logic. If they're uncomfortable seeing it while they're fishing, would it make them uncomfortable?
You'd have to ask them that. I can't answer that question for them.
Mike says the law is on his side, and so far, North Carolina judges have agreed.
What we have been told by our attorney is that we're winning.
In 2015, lawmakers voted to protect state-owned monuments, including, quote, objects of remembrance, by limiting their movement to approval from a state historical commission. So, when the town voted to move it, Dean and Tennessee-based attorney Ed Phillips successfully argued the monument has to stay.
What we would like to do, and what our intention is, we would like to take this all the way to the North Carolina Supreme Court and have the Supreme Court rule on this law as whether it's applicable to all others across the state.
Edenton's South Broad Street Monument is not the only Confederate monument trapped in legal limbo here in northeastern North Carolina.
Yep, that's my grandma's house. I love being in the rural counties because I can actually see the stars and hear the frogs. I love nature. I'm not going to leave. If I do leave, I don't want to be close to anybody.
Sherry Robinson is back in the place she grew up, back in Terrell County, a population less than 4,000 people. She raises her kids in the same place she grew up herself.
To tell you the truth, it hadn't changed much.
Okay, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I've always considered when I was growing up that we were kind of stuck back in time, you know.
At the county courthouse sits another statue, casting a shadow over the quaint Columbia downtown. From the front, a man stands at attention, with the names of Confederate dead etched around the base. But behind him, a statement of thanks. Quote, in appreciation of our faithful slaves.
A lot of people don't know exactly what's on the statue. And, you know, a lot of people are going to say, why don't you just get over it? But, you know, unfortunately, those times that in the past are people of color, you know, that sticks with you. Whatever happens is an ancestral thing. So I kind of thought of it like that with my kids going, you know, they have to take care of business at the courthouse and you see this statue standing there. Does it represent us? I don't think so.
Robinson and a group of concerned county citizens have filed a federal lawsuit to remove the statue. Their argument, the county's allowance of the faithful slaves reference on government property, is a practice of racially discriminatory government speech.
I think our statue is unique in that it does have that up there. But also, I feel like if you know the history, and I don't think people know this a lot, those statues were erected to let you know your place. You know, and for us, as a people of color, it does not, you know, it's not anything positive.
Attorneys for Terrell County's commissioners are attempting to dismiss the case, saying the county is not motivated by discrimination, but their hands are tied because of the 2015 law. The two sides now await a judge's ruling.
I mean, it's not that we want to keep going on and on about it, but you know, we all got to live in this world together. And to me, it's a symbol of division that maybe, you know, it may take some time, but maybe we'll get this done.
In northeastern North Carolina, there are at least 5 Confederate monuments across the region. At least 3 of them are locked in a legal battle because of the 2015 monument law. In Elizabeth City, Assistant Pasquotank County Manager John Shannon says the city is bound by a restraining order to move their Confederate monument, even though Town Council voted to move it in 2020. Back in Edenton, the legal battle over this monument's future faces another legal challenge.
You think if you just sat down, if you all got in a circle and locked yourself in a room for a day, a week, that you could find some kind of middle ground, or are we so separated?
Find a solution that would satisfy both sides.
Yeah.
No, can't be done.
I can't imagine that. For the counter-protesters, they will have to have this monument in town in a prominent place. They will not willingly accept any other solution.
Late last year, the town of Edenton and Chowan County Board of Commissioners signed a joint memorandum of understanding. It transferred ownership of the statue from the town to the county, so they could move it to the nearby courthouse. A plan that even Ed Phillips, the attorney who successfully sued to keep the statue in place, approved of. But as of today, the Sons of Confederate Veterans never dropped their lawsuit, which means the town never completed their transfer of the monument to the county. So the statue still sits on South Broad Street, leading Phillips and a handful of other protesters to sue the town of Edenton and the county commissioners. According to a Superior Court filing, they allege the town and county approved the move behind closed doors without public input.
If a town council was not feeling pressure to do something, they would stop doing anything. Their real objective is to end this controversy. If they have to remove the monument or move it to somewhere else to end the controversy, then they will do that. But if there was no controversy, if these protests were not going on downtown, this would not be an issue for our town council, and they would not be looking at other locations. They would not be considering moving this monument at all. I mean, this is the history of this town. As I said, people have brought this up before with them. They've discussed this, they've made promises, they've passed resolutions, but it all amounts to nothing.
After 3 years of weekend protests, they feel they've seen this story before, a story with the same ending, with the monument standing where it's already stood for decades. In North Carolina, Alex Littlehales for 13 News Now.